Why do Republicans libertarians still believe in the American dream? It just seems blatantly obvious that meritocracy is a lie, and that plenty of people end up in positions simply because of luck, rather than skill. On the flip side, plenty of talented people struggle with poverty, or are perhaps gifted in an area that isn't profitable. Is it the just world fallacy, where everything should or ought to be in its proper place in a conservative social order? It seems like conservatives libertarians have an empathy blocker in their head, operating under the terms of, if the problem doesn't exist for me, it doesn't exist for others. Or, I'm currently struggling, but I'm special so things will even out for my American dream in the future. I guess I just don't see a logical position where modern capitalism can be justified as natural. That makes sense. I'm currently struggling, but I'm special so things will even out for my American dream in the future. That's the trick. They believe that the American dream applies to them, and their success is just around the corner for sure. They just have to vote harder, pray harder, bend the rules that don't apply to them. They're special, and step on anyone who gets in their way because God has preordained that they'll be successful. But that success is always coming tomorrow. And even though tomorrow never quite arrives for most of them, it's still right there, waiting. Lots of conservative types are struggling just like the rest of us, and they know something is wrong. They just blame government or taxes and regulations for their inability to get ahead. I've had many conversations with conservative blue-collar workers, and many of them seem to think the president has a special button they can press to set the prices around the country. So lots of them are economically illiterate as well, which informs the worldview they have. It's a pyramid scheme. The ones at the top know it's a scam, but they need the ones at the bottom to believe to stay on top. The ones on the bottom believe because admitting the truth means admitting they got scammed. Woman shrugging. My right-wing father-in-law has always maintained the Republicans are the party of the rich and anyone who wants to be. Dude's lived in the same tiny apartment for like the last 35 years. It's delusional. The American dream is a relatively recent reframing of American settler colonialism. It is a propaganda tool, so it aims to give support to members of the community. It rallies people as an aspiration, false as it might be. It then serves to protect a conservative identity. Most people know that the currently way of things doesn't work. They just disagree on why. Conservatives think gay and trans people are in extreme cases. Jews have taken over, and if we could only get rid of them, we could bring God back and restore the nation. Libertarians think capitalism would work great if not for all these pesky regulations and taxes, bringing them down. And finally, somehow that would bring back small mom and pop stores like the good old days that never existed. Both are living in a fantasy world, because they prefer lies that support their narrative as opposed to truths that would actually help them. Maybe they don't believe in it. They just benefit from the current system and therefore feed the ideology to others so people don't wise up to it being a massive fraud. Poor people voting Republicans, Tories against their own interests is a classic example. For those born on third base thinking they hit a home run, the mentality is fuck you, I got mine. Because they lack intelligence and critical thinking skills. Next question. Most Americans still believe the lie that capitalism will cure their ills, and the only reason they may be in a bad situation is due to Democrats, government, or lack of Jesus in everything that surrounds us. Because they're terminally full of shit. Right-wingers are the biggest advocates for unchecked capitalism. They all cry horrible government infringement and needless bureaucracy when all modern corporations are dictatorship with the same exact traits they criticize in said government. Yet they always support the military that are you ready for this? Global conquerors so corporations can open up shop all over and seize capital. The world is a business. That's why we have all these problems. The systems in place aren't meant for you and I. Only a few at the top. GIF Giphy L2 JHW8 U6 KVRW VTZM. Because they think their race is superior and should have benefits that the regular people shouldn't have. The American dream for them is supposed to be only for the original Americans. The descendants of people that came from England and created the 13 colonies and later the USA. That's why their speech is also focused on dividing people, instead of integration. If you integrate, you are in the same step that everyone else. The biggest voting bloc of the Republican Party is a non-college educated white male. I think that says it all. Why did Harold Camping's followers keep believing that his next doomsday prediction would be the one that would be fulfilled? Because it's too painful to admit it's a lie and they've been hoodwinked. Or, if they are already rich wealthy. Because, without it, they cannot exploit the poor. The same reason why people still believe in magical authority sky daddies, they're just stupid. Working as a delivery person with FedEx on a six-figure salary is the American dream. The same reason they believe the Bible, it's what they were raised to believe and the basis for their existence. They believe in it the same way kings believed in divine right yo rule. It's just cope to explain why they are at the top of the money chain and should remain so, despite being a waste of space. If you want an honest answer to this, you should probably ask on a forum that isn't predominantly liberal. It depends on who you talk to. My company hires a lot of visa workers because the US cannot supply enough engineers. These engineers' starting salary is around $95,000 with just 2 years of required experience, and they can make like $150,000 with 4 or 5 years experience. This salary may be bad to you, but in their countries, India, for most people they make much less. A better question is why anyone believes in it regardless of whether they support either of the two major parties, both of which are controlled entirely by capitalists. Why do people pay the lottery? The American dream is so rare now, it's about the same odds. They don't believe it. They just tell everyone that they believe it because they want the people to still work and create wealth for the higher-ups and maintain the status quo so they can continue to exist in a place of privilege. Because the allure of fuck you, I've got mine and you're on your own still has a lot of appeal. One of the things I've discovered by talking to them and re-examining my conservative upbringing is that they have been taught to see exceptions as norms because a handful of people can start from nothing, play football and become millionaires, then that must mean the system works in their minds. This mentality is further reinforced with lotteries and other entertainment industries. For being the party of personal responsibility, they sure always have something to blame. It's the illegals. Or we have corporatism. Not capitalism or taxes, regulations, etc. Blame anything but the system itself. Then there are the culture war distractions on top of that to make things even more foggy. The American dream is real if you were born rich. They don't. They are manipulative creeps who want you to believe in the American dream even though it isn't real. Because Republicans that shouldn't believe in the dream are too stupid to understand that. And the Republicans that are experiencing the dream like it the way it is. Propaganda is a hell of a drug. They are mindless. There is no logical consistency. If you try to point this out, they won't mentally process it. Because they're still asleep, and once they finally wake up, they will realize the bullshit that it is.